Well, hello everybody. Probably the rarest thing you will ever hear is anyone refer to Bernard Rich, Buddy Rich, Bernard, as nice. He never had a chance to be nice. He was born in 1917 to Jewish American parents in Brooklyn. His parents were vaudevillians. They worked on vaudeville. That all by itself is a rough life. Not a lot of pay, a lot of work, a lot of seedy people. You do what you do. Before he was 2 years old, his parents had them actively involved in their show. And as soon as he was able to crawl fast, he would try to crawl over to where the drummer was and steal his sticks. And by the time he was 2 years old, he was pretty successful at it. And he was playing pretty successfully by the time he was 4. Pretty much self-taught, watching people, getting some pointers here and there, working at it. He did take lessons later in his life, where he really wanted to learn to read music. He never did, because he would take a few lessons and he'd go back on the road. He'd take a few lessons and he'd go back on the road. So that didn't work out. He was taking lessons with Mr. Adler, who helped him write a book on snare drum technique. You might want to check that out. But as a young kid, his parents very quickly realized that he had some talent, some gifts. And of course, they needed all the talents and gifts they could get. They needed to monetize that. So by the time he was 4 years old, he was on Broadway himself under the moniker Baby Taps. That was his name on Broadway. He was Baby Taps. And he'd be just tapping on them drums, and people would be paying a lot of money to see this little baby who was hardly walking, just tearing up on the drums. He was soon singing and dancing. This is a part of Buddy's life we don't talk about a lot. He was a singer and a dancer. And by the time he was 15 years old, he had his own group of teenagers who were entertaining, musically, singing, choreography, the whole thing. And he actually took them on a successful national tour at 15. So here's a guy that hit the show business road running, full speed, hardly before he could walk. And that's because he was born into it. He continued to do all the things he did, playing here, getting more and more fame. He's right there in Brooklyn. He's right there in the heart of where everything is. He's doing the whole vaudeville thing. He's doing the teen thing. He's got this going, but there has to be a change. And somewhere around 1937, he turned to Bunny Berrigan's band and jazz. He always did like jazz from a little kid, but this was a shift to jazz, away from Broadway, away from vaudeville, on Broadway, away from singing and dancing and all that. It's kind of hard to sing and dance when you're playing drum set for a jazz band way in the back, so his life changed. And he never changed it back. He stayed with jazz to the very end of his life. This was just the passageway. And after that, you're talking about Benny Goodman's band, where he met Frank Sinatra. They became great friends and enemies. Their bouts, their fights are legendary, but they always would have a drink and make up, and Frank remained one of his great friends and supporters through his entire life. He was very competitive. Everybody knew that he could play, and he wanted everybody to know that he could outplay you. He wanted sure you understood that. And He was rated very, 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 very highly as a drummer. And as I was saying, he's playing with Count Basie. He's playing with anybody who would like him, black and white. And for black bands to have a white drummer, that's a real thing. Because normally we're like, oh no, man, we don't want that cat on drums. But Buddy could swing. And he had chops, technique that was flawless. And he had a great sense of style. And he had these big ears. He could hear everything going on, and he just set it up and accompanied it masterfully as a drummer. Now, as time is going on, he gets this whole war bug, and he decides that he is going to leave the big band scene, because the big band scene is kind of dying out in the 40s anyway. And you go into the military, so he went into the Marines. And he never saw combat, but he taught martial arts until I guess he injured himself and was given a medical disability and released. Upon release from the Marines, he came right back to the music scene and started just doing sessions with people. Some of those sessions included bebop people, even Charlie Parker. There's a recording called Bird and Diz from 1950. And on that recording with the two great architects of bebop, the drummer is Buddy Rich. That's right, go check that out. Buddy could swing. Even Bird knew that. So as soon as he could, Frank Sinatra helped him put together his first group, the Buddy Rich Orchestra. It lasted, 5 or 6 years, and did pretty well, but it's hard to keep a big band going. So once again, he's doing independent things, studio things, doing guest appearances with other artists, but he kept his eye on the whole entertainment thing. He came into life that way, and he kept his mind on that. How can I market this? How can I market this? And as he worked, he kept at it. His first big Buddy Rich Orchestra kind of failed financially. He worked for a while. In the 60s, he formed his second band, the Buddy Rich Big Band. In 1966, they recorded West Side Story, big band jazz arrangements of the music of West Side Story, and it was a tremendous hit. People still listen to that music. It is just great, great, great arrangements and great playing, and you just gotta hear it. And it set him on a solid foundation of success from 1966 until the day he died. He kept pushing that big band. He also knew how to promote himself. He loved TV. Radio was dead as far as he was concerned. TV was the thing. So he made sure to get himself on TV appearances. One of the biggest shows, 50s, 60s, would have been the Steve Allen Show. And not many people realize that Steve Allen was not just a great television personality, he was also a great jazz pianist and great jazz lover. So guess what? Buddy Rich took advantage of that, and he was on the Steve Allen Show a lot. When Johnny Carson came along with Tonight Show, he was on that show a lot as well, because he knew full well that Johnny Carson was himself an amateur drummer. Yeah, Johnny wanted to be a great drummer, and he loved Buddy Rich, so there that goes. One of the other things he did to promote himself is to align himself with other great drummers, such as the 1955 recording Krupa and Rich. They did this tune called Bernie's Tune, I think it's called. And on this tune, there's literally a 6-minute drum battle between Gene Krupa, who is of the Sing 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 legacy, I mean the greatest drum solo maybe ever recorded, and Buddy Rich. And of course every drummer in the world bought it. Man, back in the 80s when my son Frank was coming of age, I had to buy that record for him, and he would sit there and practice every lick on it. But he also did those kind of drum battles with Ed Shaughnessy and with Louis Bellison. He never did a recording with Max Roach. But there was this incident that occurred where jazz critics at the height of bebop referred to Max Roach as the greatest drummer alive. Well, Billy, I mean, you know, come on. We're talking Buddy Rich. He did not like that at all. And so he had this little thing against Max Roach for stealing his thunder. And it showed up in a lot of different ways. Mostly kind of a, you know, funny little thing, but they were jabs anyway. And in one situation, they're coming out of a club. Max is coming out of the club, and Buddy is always out, and he pulls up in his shiny new convertible car, and he's got the hottest, most beautiful female in New York City sitting next to her. That Buddy Rich knew how to pick the beautiful women. She's sitting there looking just gorgeous, and Buddy yells over at Max, "Hey Max, top this, baby. Yeah, this is what I'm riding with tonight. Yeah, top this," and drove off. So that was kind of what Buddy Rich was all about. Nearly after he died, it was discovered that he kept a couple secrets from people who did not know him. The first one was he absolutely hated country music. Someone related a story who was in the hospital, and the nurse asked him, "Is there anything that you are allergic to?" He said, "Yeah, country music will kill me in a second." So that was his attitude. But he felt almost the same way about rock and roll. The problem was rock and roll drummers loved him. Billy Cobham tells a story. He's playing with, you know, Dreams and Mojave Stew Orchestra and all that. And those are kind of groups that Buddy Rich didn't have a lot of respect for. He comes over to Buddy Rich with his snare drum and asks him to sign it. And he said, Buddy dropped his snare drum down a flight of stairs, man. So Buddy, he could be a very harsh character. But later on, after he died, Neil Peart, drummer for Rush, in 94, 95, did this recording called Burning for Buddy, the music of Buddy Rich. And he brought in the best drummers he could to play signature songs from Buddy Rich's library. It included, of course, Collins. It included Neil Peart. It included Billy Cobham, Dennis Chambers, Dave Weckl, Max Roach even came and recorded. Billy Cobham recorded even after losing the snare drum to this guy. Because although they did not care so much for his personality and his attitude, they had a lot of respect for what he had accomplished as a drummer. And for the fact that he literally had put them on the map as a leader of a band, being in the industry for 7 decades and always making it go the way it had to go, and then being steadfast in his adherence to jazz as the way to go. It may not have given him the monetary fortune that he wanted, but it gave him the life that he wanted. In the last time I covered this in part 1, I talked about an incident with my son. I'm going to talk about it again. I had Buddy Rich at a concert at Boca Ciega, and my little Boca Ciega jazz band opened up the concert, kind of like a warm-up band. And my son had this drum solo on Devil's Commandment. Buddy Rich comes out, he plays his first tune, and after the second tune, he asked for the house lights to be turned up. All the lights turned up, spotlight, everything, wants everything. And he wants the little drummer that played in that little jazz band. Great little jazz band, right? Great little jazz band. Where's that drummer? Have him stand up. Have him stand up. Yeah, have him stand up. So my son, who had worshiped Buddy Rich, had all those drum battle records that learned them all. He stands up, man, like, oh my God, Buddy Rich has acknowledged me. Woo! And Buddy Rich says, are you the guy that played solo on my concert? My son goes, yes, yes, yes. And Buddy Rich said, sit down. No one came here to see you. They came here to see me. You sit down, little kid, and don't you ever play a solo on my concert again. My kid was just burned. And of course, there were people laughing. That made it worse. So I'm hoping we can get through the night. But after the concert, my son goes, I got to go see him. I go, no, 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 we don't do that. I know who that man is. I got to. So we walk around the back to the bus. As we're approaching the bus, Buddy Rich's band members see us coming, and they are pointing, go away, go away. And then we hear this voice from the bus. Hey, is that little kid out there? That was it. Let him on. So there he is in his house coat, because he traveled in nothing but a house coat in his bus. That's all I got to say. My kid walks on the bus, and before he can get a word out, Buddy says, I'm glad to see you. Real glad. It takes a whole lot of, we use the word cojones. It takes a whole lot of cojones to come on my bus, challenge me. He said, and that's what I'm glad to see. He said, because you got a whole lot of talent, but if you don't have big cojones, you will not make it in this business. Take it from me, kid, and good luck. Now get off my bus. That was probably the kindest gesture that Buddy Rich made in his whole life. He is so bad that there are actually recordings from him, his tirades on his band on the bus and behind stage and that kind of thing. Check out some of those Buddy Rich tapes. There is even a cartoon book that was written and drawn by one of the trombone players on the bus that matches some of those Buddy Rich recordings. And I've seen them all because my good buddy Dave Tippett, trumpet player up there in Toledo, Ohio, what's happening, Dave? He told me all about it, let me hear some recordings, and even let me look at the cartoon book. There, I bet you all haven't seen that. And that's all I got to say about Bernard Rich. Buddy Rich, legendary drummer. His talent, unbelievable. His tirades, unbelievable. Thank you.